Welcome to the Marc The Shark MMA Show. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel as well as my Twitch channel. And if you can, check out the website as well if you want to be interviewed on a show or even help support the channel by buying a hoodie or a t-shirt. It's at www.markthesharkmmashow.com. You can even go there if you want to sign up and be on the show. And if you can't, go to RitortoFamilyBooks.com and pick up an autographed copy of my book, The Kabbalah Saga Begins, or check out the books my daughter have written. They're also available on Amazon.com. All right, everybody, sit back and enjoy the show.
All right, guys, we are live on Twitch, and welcome to the Marc The Shark MMA Show, where we talk about health, fitness, and mixed martial arts, and all the fun things going on during the COVID lockdown. Today, we got a very special guest, Jimmy Kim. He's a fellow podcaster himself and a fitness expert. How you doing today, Jimmy?
Not too bad, Mark. Mark, appreciate you letting me come on the show today, and yeah, I'm looking forward to this, man.
Yeah. It's always good to have like a fun guest on the show, and especially if it's a fellow podcaster, right? They're kind of used to what to do.
For sure, but how about we save that? You never know how I'll be, right? So maybe I won't be. Maybe I won't be fun.
Oh, we'll try, right? We got to entertain everybody, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But Mark, before you start interviewing me, I've been, I've been looking you up, right? So I want to know how you come up with, how'd you come up with Marc The Shark? Like, why the shark? Is it like a jiu-jitsu thing? I've been trying to think, man.
Yeah, basically, when I went back, I was off jiu-jitsu for a while, for about 8 years. I got really injured. And then I was on and off Thai boxing. Like back then, they didn't have stem cell therapy or stuff they have now. I was like 40 something, and I noticed they had jiu-jitsu at the Thai boxing gym that I was training at, which is North Jersey Muay Thai, pretty popular in this area. They got a world champion, they got a Northeastern champion, and there was a jiu-jitsu guy, a very friendly guy, and I'm like, let me give it a shot. And while I was training with him, he opened up his own school, and there was an amateur MMA fighter there. His name is Mike Mish, my fat boy Mish. I don't know if he's listening to this, but whatever. He was handing out fight names. So one guy put one guy to sleep, so they called him Sandman. And he just came up, like, I guess, with rolling with me, whatever. He's like, man, you're like a shark. So then he was like, Marc The Shark. And it stuck. But in all honesty, I've always had a nickname, like ever since I went to college. People always had some kind of nickname, and for some reason, whenever they come up with a nickname, it sticks. So when they came up with the Marc The Shark, I'm like, they stopped calling me Mark. They just kept calling me Shark. And at that time, I was also competing in jiu-jitsu tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not Gordon Ryan or world champion, but I was doing pretty good for the 40-year-old division.
Right.
I was even older than the 40-year-olds. I was like in my mid-40s.
Is that Masters 2 or Masters 3?
I was Masters 2 and 3, depending on the competition.
Yeah.
Oh, so you know about that? You train?
Yeah, I trained jiu-jitsu. Yeah, I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu for a couple of years now. Yeah, out here in Toronto. I'm from Toronto, Canada. Very similar story to you. I was doing Muay Thai for a couple of years. I've been doing martial arts my whole life, ever since I was 7. You can tell. I don't know if you can tell by my last name. I'm Korean.
I didn't know it was jiu-jitsu. I knew you were into the martial arts. I didn't. I think on your website, I think it looked like a karate now. I didn't see you in a jiu-jitsu gear.
Yeah, I've done it all. Taekwondo from 7 till my late teens, and then I finally begged my mom. I was like, Mom, I want to try something else. She's like, well, you're gonna have to make your own money if you want to, because I want to do boxing. Like, boxing was the thing. Mike Tyson. I grew up during that time. Roy Jones Jr. Yeah. So I took the money that I had a part-time job, and I've been working since 9 years old, believe it or not. Yeah, I was my parents had like a little. They had a convenience store, Korean, of course, right? And they had like a little lotto ticket booth at a subway station. So after school, we didn't have any babysitters now, nothing like that. So take my sister, we take the subway. And then I'd be working the lotto booth as a 9-year-old kid, like just here's your tickets, here's your scratch tickets, handling cash and talking to people since the 9 until forever, I guess. But they would give me a little bit of pocket change, to hey, good job, here's some money. I saved that, and then when I was 16, I told them, like, look, Mom, I don't want to do Taekwondo anymore. I want to try something else. So they're like, look, you gotta use your own money then. I don't support that. I don't like that. So I did boxing, did that for 4 or 5 years, and then I missed kicking. Good. I missed kicking people, so I was like, you know what, I want to try Muay Thai. I did Muay Thai until like for another 4 or 5 years, and both boxing and Muay Thai I competed amateurly, for fun, just to kind of just try it out, right? Even Taekwondo, like I went around the scenes and did it, and I was never really like amazing at it, and that's when. That's when like things I would look around the gym and like I see people, getting into gym wars, right? And getting knocked out. And, all the places I went to, maybe a little bit more, let's say a little bit more hard knocks, like in the sense of like nobody wore headgear. Nobody wore like shin pads. The only thing they wore was like a cup. And of course, I want to wear those things, but I also don't want to be that guy that is the only guy wearing like a headgear and stuff like that when I don't see anybody else.
Yeah, we didn't like when I did karate, not when I did Taekwondo when I did Shotokan karate.
Okay.
When I was a teenager, like 14. Then when we moved to North Jersey, I took Taekwondo. I'd say we wore headgear there, but then when I graduated college, I found a guy in Middletown, New Jersey. His name was Ray Martin.
Okay.
And he was a very unique setting. He had like a 5th degree in karate. He was a brown belt in judo, 2nd degree in Nishiru. But he's the one who introduced me to Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He also had a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, and he had like a 15-year-old kid who's actually like a 2nd degree now under Renzo Gracie because the guy never stopped. Never had that. I don't understand how guys are so lucky they don't have injuries, man. I don't know. But I like back in the day, we just trained like knuckleheads. Like we didn't.
Exactly.
Like, it's not like the generation now. Generation now, they got it nice. They're working out with the very skilled people. They got nice control. We were like assholes. We were like throwing each other into the walls. Come out with, like we're grappling, and I'd have black eyes like I'm boxing. But when we did the karate at his school, we sometimes we wore headgear, but like on the weekends we would do. Like more like Kushin Kai style. Yeah. But we would do it all to the body. We wouldn't do it to the face. We would be full contact to the body. I don't know why we came up with that concept. Like we were allowed to kick to the head, but not punch to that. It didn't make any sense because a kick would do more damage.
100%. But I guess maybe perhaps the chances of a kick actually hitting you is a little bit lower. Yeah. But kind of going what you're saying, like. The one Muay Thai gym we went to, they hired this one year. They hired like a French Muay Thai fighter, pro fighter. So he came down, and he was super, just like very hardcore. He would teach this class every Saturday, and I'll never forget it. It was called Fighters Conditioning Class. It was a fighters conditioning class, and literally it was us punching each other in the stomach or in the chest or kicking each other's legs. Yeah. Literally for a whole hour, so you condition yourself for it. And you watch the old school like blood sport movies, right? And you think, he's kicking down that banana tree 100,000 times, and that's the only way to be a real fighter. But I think shortly after that, like I was looking around and I just see people get into these wars, and even me doing that kind of class, I'm just like, you know what? I am not a professional fighter. I work at the government. I don't have any plans to do that. I think
that's probably like how I got injured a lot, because I would just consistently train 3 times a week, maybe 4 times a week. But these guys were in there, like 5, 6, 7. The guys that I train with, like in karate school, they had like the cushy class. But within the hardcore guys, we would train on Sundays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Right? Start out jiu-jitsu, and then we do karate for the rest of it. And it was hardcore. But those guys, one of them actually, it was before the UFC. Like, the UFC was out. He actually kind of went pro. He fought in Mohegan Sun. He was like 17 years old. He ended up getting a brown belt from Henzo, whatever. It was probably a black belt now, but
Yeah.
you know,
I mean,
I think that's how I got hurt. I got hurt a lot, and then
yeah.
it took me
The
forever.
Wild West. The Wild West. It sounds like exactly like how it was here. Like in Toronto, there was no black belts in Toronto. There was a lot of blue belts, purple belts, but you know, who knows? Who knows where these? So I went to a school. It was called Toronto BJJ, the only BJJ school in Toronto at the time, and happened to be close to where my girlfriend lived too. So I thought, okay, you know, kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
Went there. I loved it. It was amazing. And then they went through like a transition period, and I don't know if you know the guy Saulo Ribeiro.
Yes, Saulo. Yeah. He's a
yeah.
legend,
So
man.
a legend, super legend. I've got to you know train with him. He's come because our school became affiliated with Saulo Ribeiro. So then Saulo sent over a black belt from Brazil, and he came down to Toronto, and his name is George Brito, and he actually beat Rafael dos Anjos in Brazil.
Really?
Split decision to him. You know, back in the day.
He became your instructor at your
He
school.
became our instructor, and just very like hardcore Brazilian style jiu-jitsu, but structured. So then it wasn't this like, okay, you know, everyone just kind of go in, do whatever. It became like, okay, blue and white gis only. Traditional. We line up, we do that, and then you started to see the school and the people who were competing just getting better and better and better and better. And you know, it was a time when as a purple belt, I was competing a lot more, but definitely just below the competitors out there. But it's the way I explain to people is I continue to do it now. You know, I'm almost 40 now, and I've been doing it for the last 13 years. But it's the one martial art where you can go out, you could do it 100%, and then you could still do it again the next day if you want to, right? There's no like punching or kicking, as long as you're relatively ego free and you know, tap when you're supposed to tap, right?
Yeah, that's the key, I think. It bothers me because I got a decade on you. It bothers me sometimes, but at our age, as you get older, you have to tap sooner.
Yeah.
unless you got a really good doctor and you don't mind going for constant MRIs and surgeries. I've had
For sure.
It sucks.
For sure. Look,
it's safer to err on caution and put your ego aside, man. There was one point my foot was so messed up. That was one of the reasons, like before COVID hit, I stopped for 8 months because my foot was so messed up. I had to get stem cells there. Highly recommend it if you haven't done it.
I haven't tried it.
If you were a white belt, we're just walking in the door. If you just touched my foot, I tapped.
Yeah.
Because that's how painful it was.
That was from what?
I still have trouble walking. It also affected my hamstrings, leg locks. If you trained at the Henzo school, we had a guy that was part of that. Well, my instructor was Carl Massaro. He's one of the original Death Squad members. And then you had Frankie Rosenthal, who's current with the Death Squad guys. He's training with Gordon Ryan all the time. And I'm like, I wasn't used to it. I came from a different school where there was no leg locks.
Yeah.
And when they do it, when they go for a heel hook, and first you're thinking they're going for an ankle lock because the positioning is the same, just the leg entanglement, the way to lock your legs down. So, but you're thinking it's an ankle lock, and you think you can get out, and then before you know it, they just got that thing sunk. You know,
Mark, I don't play with that, Mark.
I love to learn it, but
yeah. You know, I learn it.
Are you still training now with the?
Yeah. No.
I was getting back into it, and then I had to stop because of COVID.
It sucks because we moved. My girlfriend at the time is now my wife now, right? And we live 2 minutes away from the gym. We just moved here like 2 years ago, and like boom, COVID hit, and jiu-jitsu is not exactly the most socially distanced activity you could do, right? So you know, all the gyms are closed here. It's been closed since October, I think.
Yeah, they're open, but I'm just I don't know. I just have I don't know. I just feel bad if I bring it home to my family, or if I give it to my parents or something. For sure.
You know, same thing. I live. You know, my mother-in-law lives with us right here, so it's like, what am I going to do? Roll with somebody and then bring it over to somebody. You know, bring it over to her, and That'd be the worst feeling in the world to do it. You know, I have a buddy who owns a jiu-jitsu gym in Korea, and he was telling me they're open, but they're doing jiu-jitsu with masks on. And I go to him like,
I think it makes a difference, but
I'm like, yeah, I'm like, what do you do? Like, the mask must constantly come off because as soon as you go for like something, anything, right? And he's like, you gotta stop, you gotta reset, and that's the regulation over there, right? And
I'm kind of hoping, and when it gets warmer out, I have a friend from my jiu-jitsu school that I think I can trust. That he's like kind of like me, staying safe. Like maybe he can come over once a week and we can roll. Yeah, that's my goal anyway. So like,
I mean, it's different. I mean, I think for you and I, it's different. I'll speak for myself. I have no plans right now to be world champion of you know, but it keeps me in shape. It breaks up my rhythm of, you know, the regular workouts that I do, you know, and it's funny because I bought Solo's book, University of Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, I got that too. I bought it 2 years ago. And I met Andre Galval too. I got him to sign his competition.
Yeah. Did you ever get to train with the Galval?
He did a seminar at a school about 20 minutes. It was before COVID, obviously. I was still injured, but I went anyway because I'm like, when am I going to get a chance to meet like one of my favorite jiu-jitsu practitioners? I've met him. I've met Bralo Estima, did a seminar at my jiu-jitsu school. And I met Harger Gracie. I went to the Henzo Academy in the city. I've met him. Yeah. So I had to meet Andre Caval because like he was like in one of my top 5 all jiu-jitsu
amazing
of all time.
We I guess at that time we're no longer associated with Saulo Ribeiro's gym, but at the time when we were associated with him, we would get some really amazing guest coaches and jiu-jitsu guys come. Galval would come in and he would do like a weekend's worth for free for a class, you know. So we didn't have to pay.
It wasn't that much, but it wasn't free.
So
you got to figure the school's paying him. I think all the money goes to him. Maybe the instructor keeps $50.
Maybe he was passing through. We had who do we have? Rafa Lovato Jr. He's associated with Saulo. He came by. He is insane. And
he's doing great till I don't know if he had some health issue. He's got health issues in MMA. Now. He won the world championship in Bellator. He won a world championship in I think some other LFA or something. So what are you doing now? I mean, because it's great talking martial arts, but I mean, I think you probably want to talk about what you're doing now to promote yourself or whatever it is that you're doing. Right?
Yeah, you know, so you know, going back to that book, University of Jiu-Jitsu. In that book, there is, I think, on the second or third page, there was, I think, Sanji. He is swinging this yellow bell, just a picture of it, and I was like, "What is that?" You know, and I wanted to at the time getting really into jiu-jitsu, and I was like, "Okay, what are some other things I could do other than jiu-jitsu?" And it ended up being a kettlebell. And I was like, what the heck is a kettlebell? Like, what is this all about, right?
I just started that with the lockdowns. I couldn't go.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, even then, the resources of a kettlebell in Toronto didn't exist, 12 years ago, 13 years ago. So I had to go and scour for one. And then to try to figure out how to use it was its own deal. Loved it. And then it turned up, I ended up turning that into a business.
Really?
Running Remix My Fitness. That is my business that I run. I left my government job of 11 years to go out and do this, to teach kettlebells to people. And it's been what I've been doing over the last, the last like 10 years or so now.
Now, like not just now, but I mean, prior to COVID, were you doing that mostly in person or just strictly online? Because I've been to your website. It looks really nice.
Oh, I appreciate it. Well, no, so it was, we did it in person. So I had a studio for 4 years out here in Toronto. And then I absolutely hated owning the studio because the hours was just too much. Like it was a very small boutique style studio. So it was just me and another trainer that I would hire. The hours would be 6 a.m. till 10 p.m. at night, with like just odd hours in between, I would just kind of take in clients whenever I could, right? Like I would teach classes and things like that, but like I would have to leave the studio open. I had to make a living. So if a client said, "Hey, can I train at 9 o'clock at night? Would you?" I was like, "Yeah, sure. Let's do it." Right. At that time, my son was just born as well. So I left the government, opened up a studio, put all my money in, and also had a kid that same year. So It was a tough one, but we did okay. It's just I just couldn't do it anymore, and an opportunity came up where one of the people working out with me just said, "Hey, would you be interested in coming and teaching something at my work?" And I was like, "At your work?" I'm like, "Okay." So I brought some kettlebells over, and I thought we were going to push some desks aside, but it turns out that this place had its own gym.
Oh,
There.
wow.
And I was like, "Wait, you're going to pay me money to come to your gym and train your people?" And I was like, if you have a gym, then there's got to be other gyms, other companies who have gyms around who also want programs. So I closed this.
That here, man. Not too many companies I worked for had.
Oh, really?
That'd be great.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. At least, I don't know if Toronto's that progressive, but it turns as I got more and more deeper into it, there are a ton. There are a ton of places who maybe they don't have gyms, but they have spaces, or they have places that they're willing to turn into gyms now, and things like that. So that's what I was doing, and I was thinking, like, look, that's great. I don't have to pay rent, and they pay pretty decent if you're gonna come in, do a good job. And I kind of built my business from there, and I was doing that, and it was going pretty decent for 4 years, and then COVID. Right. Yeah. And then had to quickly transition to doing everything virtual. And it's funny because this is kind of like where I wanted to be. I want to come online, teach online. Mm-hmm. And it turns out it took a pandemic for me to actually just be like, okay, I'm ready. Let's do it. And I think we have a pretty good product. Probably one of the, I could honestly say like one of the best audio, video, and content that we have out there. It's all live. We do it Monday to Friday for the public, as in like Team Remix every evening, 6 and 7:30. We run kettlebells, all kinds of stuff. And then during the daytime, we are doing it for companies in Toronto, in the States. We have companies out in San Francisco. We have companies out in England, Hong Kong, that do our live programs with the trainers, either myself or somebody else. So it's funny that during this time that this was the time for me to go out there and to grow a business. Never hired anybody, never hired more than one trainer. Now I got 3. I had to hire a graphic designer, and it's kind of like it was getting too much for me. So now I am juggling all these things that I'd never had to deal with before, and I get to do it at home. So that's not too bad. Yeah,
that's great though. And it's funny that it's like the kettlebells, because my cousin was doing that too. I don't know if he still does that, but he was doing that. He was doing that on the side. He had a full-time job. Mm-hmm. But it's amazing how like the online stuff still has transitioned. I'm surprised we've had, with the internet, the boom of the internet, we've had a lot of online businesses. I'm just surprised that a lot of other businesses were not prepared to go online. Because I've thought about possibly like, doing a business too, but I was always scared because of that. Like here in Jersey, we got a high cost of living. I got 4 kids, and I got a mortgage payment.
Yeah.
So I always but I have friends, that one has like his company sells like health products, like protein shakes, and then he had a green tea. He's done all right with that. I got another friend that has like a healthcare business.
Yeah.
Where nurses go out, but I always wanted to do something entrepreneurial, but I had never been able to take that big step. But I'm surprised to see that during the COVID lockdown, that no one had that backup plan to be on the internet. I did see one local butcher, like I saw on the news, like he just went totally online, and now I think he's actually doing better. So
yeah,
it's great to hear success stories, because I'm hoping that one day I can come up with something. I just haven't come up with what I wanted to do. Like, I would always wanted to do jiu-jitsu, but dude, my body's like shot. And my idea is like, you got to be able to kick everybody's ass to come in the door in order to teach. That's like my philosophy. So I'm like trying to think of something else. And you always do a podcast too, right?
Yeah. So
you get paid for your podcast as well, or is that just something on the side to grow your business, or like?
It started off with something on the side to grow my business. I always like being on the mic. I've emceed countless weddings. I go by the name MC Kim, aka the Kind Intelligent Man, on the podcast. And it's funny because to pay for my school, pay for my university when I was younger, my high school buddy, his name was DJ Riz, and he says, "Look, I want to come out with these mixed CDs, but I want somebody on the microphone. Do you think Do you think you could just kind of just say a couple things and just announce the songs? And I was like, I don't know if I could do that. And he's like, okay. So I ended up agreeing. And then he's like, okay, we got to come up with like a cool name for you. I'm like, a cool name? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, okay, let's do with like MC Kim. I'm like, I don't know about MC Kim. And that was in 2002. And my sister, who was cleaning out my room, my old place, she found my CDs recently. And they say 2002. They're printed. We sold them at flea markets. We hustled on streets to sell them. And it's so funny that 18 years, 20 or 19 years later, I'm still going by that name. So Remix My Fitness is my main podcast that I run. And from there, I had some listeners tune in and they says, hey, you know what? I really like the way you sound. I really like the way you edit the show. Would you be interested in coming on and doing my show? I want to build a podcast. And I was like, what do you do? He's like, well, we're in the health tech realm. I'm like, I don't know anything about health tech. He's like,
oh, so they pay you to do, are you paid to be their spokesperson on their podcast? Like, I don't know what you call that. It's your podcast, but it's not your podcast, but you're paid to be a podcaster.
Yeah. So I'm
going to be looking into that too.
What I told them was this. I told them, say, look, you know what? I actually have, and I didn't have it, but I said, hey, I actually have a podcast network. And I made up the name on the spot. It's called Host My Podcast. And where I can either co-host your show for you, and I will produce your show. And it's going to be, you got to do X amount of episodes, and it's going to cost you X amount of dollars. And he said, great, let's do it. Which then led to another person listening to that health tech show and saying, hey, I have this. I'm part of an app company, and we really like the way you host the show. So now my this pretend business that I had actually ended up turning into a real business, and we have quite a few shows now on the hostmypodcast.com that I produce and edit, and some of them I co-host, some of them I don't. I don't know. I didn't know anything about these topics, so I've got to learn them as I go along. So
that's funny because, all right, I run. I get like businesses hit me up for the front ends on my show, and I get a lot of authors and stuff. Someone actually sent me something, but I didn't. You said what you said now. I didn't understand. He actually asked me to do something like that, to set up like a podcast. I think he wanted me to do it from scratch. It wasn't like to be on a podcast, so I kind of like blew the guy off. And I probably shouldn't have.
Yeah, well, it's the new medium now. As I meet with these companies, and before you can go out and when you do a sales call, like when I used to go and do sales for my own business to get my fitness company into their companies, you sit down, you have a beer with somebody, you have lunch with somebody, you get to know them, you jive with them a little bit, or you don't, right? You can't do that now. So how do people get to know who you are? How do people get to know your philosophy? Either you're writing something, you're on a podcast, or you have a video of something. And again, it's like it's about making that connection with them. And this is now how you have to kind of make connections with people.
Yeah. Now, is your podcast just strictly audio on Spotify and iTunes, or do you have a YouTube channel?
So all my podcasts, Remix My Fitness, This Week in Health Tech, Behind the Dental Chair. Those are currently all audio. We have social clips that come out, but for the most part right now, it's been all audio.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. So when you went to the kettlebells, you weren't scared to leave your job or like worried about the health benefits or anything? Well,
dude, I was scared out of my mind, but
really?
I started the government very early. I started as soon as I finished school. I thought, okay, I have this degree, and what am I going to do with it? I had this bachelor's degree. I'm like, now what? No more school. I'm like, I don't know if I want to do more school. So I fortunately found a place. I started working for the government when I was 20 years old, and I quickly moved up in the rankings. I was working for the Attorney General's office.
Oh, okay.
I knew nothing. I had a kinesiology background. I had a human science background. I started at the the lowest position, and then next thing you know, I am running a courthouse in out here, and I was probably 26, 27. Making pretty okay money, having security. In our Asian culture, having a government job is considered very, very prestigious and whatever. Yeah. But I was very trapped in the job. I was clearly, something was off because I was almost 300 pounds as well. Walking around. very like I was one of those fat guys that was really fit though, because I was always into fitness. I was always into lifting, martial arts. But by looking at you, you just be like, oh my god, that guy needs to go on a diet or something. But as I was trying to figure out and try to change my life, I thought, okay, you know what? Why don't I change me first? And kind of figure out what I want to do. And I had all these things that I was doing so that I could lose weight. But it ended up being like I was very unhappy about it because I was just doing it just so that I could lose weight and kind of show people that I wanted to lose weight. Because it turns out what I really thought was the people that were unhappy about, or the people were more unhappy about me being so heavy than I was. Like, I didn't really care, but they cared so much. Like, I would always hear from my mom, my sister, my friends, people on the street. People always had an opinion, like, oh, you know what? If you do 200 skip ropes every day, you'll lose 5 pounds. I'm like, what? Why do you care? Like, I'm happy with me. So, with some soul searching, and look, they all meant it in their good way, right? Like, they didn't mean it in like malicious way. They meant they were concerned about my health, but kind of soul searching from my end, and I ended up losing weight, as time went on, just by doing the things I loved doing, and just kind of starting to connect with myself. And as I was doing that, people started asking me, "How are you doing that? How are you doing this?" So I would just kind of share stuff like, "Oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, blah blah blah." And then they said, "Okay, could I pay you like $10 an hour? Would you be interested in like training me, showing me?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, sure." I did it for fun. Then it became $20 an hour. Then it became $50 an hour. Then my calendar started getting really busy. I was working at 6 a.m. to train people, go to my regular job, and then after my regular job, I'd go and train more people at their homes, their gyms, their wherever it was, right? So once I was able to kind of build my clientele book, I was working my training job part-time, and I was working my full-time job for 2 years. I thought, you know what? I think I'm ready to take. I was like 30 years old. I was like, look, I got to do it now, So I just went and I just did it. I asked my wife. I said, look, we're going to be kind of hard up on money, and we're not going to have benefits and a pension and all that stuff like that. And she says, look, if you're happy, then we're happy.
Oh, that's great.
And I said,
great. It's great when you got a supportive family. That's great. And it's great to see that, they usually, you always hear the stories. It's always, if you're passionate about something, you're going to be more successful, right? Now, success can be measured in different ways, right? It could be monetary, it could be how you feel, but it's at the end of the day, if it all depends. If you're happy, then that's it, right?
Absolutely.
You only go around the block once, right? That's what they say. You only live once.
It's true.
Right?
It's true.
So
it's true.
There was once, so you got to make the best of it. And it's
absolutely. And which is why I do what I do, right? Like, not just work wise, but people, my mother-in-law asks me all the time. I come home and I'm just like limping home from jiu-jitsu, or like, I'm just like a little sore. She's like, why do you pay money to get beat up? She's like, I don't get it.
It's the same thing.
And I said, nothing makes me feel more alive, to go in there, to test myself. If I could do Muay Thai, if I could do boxing, and I felt like, hey, you know what, the next day I won't walk away with brain damage or this and that, I would do it. But it's just, I can't, it's, I think above all, I probably may get some flack for this, but I think jiu-jitsu is a very show me martial art, right? Like, show me that you are a black belt. Show me that you actually know some stuff, and I can show you, and we can go at it, like, But with boxing and like karate, it's kind of like, I'm a black belt in karate, and what are we gonna do? We're gonna fight? Am I gonna kick you for real? Like, things like that. Like, it's not as it's harder to show. So my going to your point about happiness, my son, who's like 7 now, he's starting to kind of ask questions like, you work a lot, Dad, or it's so I said, he'll be like, are we rich? And I tell him, like, I said, look, son, we are absolutely rich, 100%. Maybe not money wise, we're not rich, but in terms of like our happiness together, like, we're happy. We have food in our bellies. Thankfully, like, if I'll tell you, Mark, if I had no experience doing virtual workouts before, but I had a lot of experience doing the podcasting and this and that. So I had like some technical aspects of it. So which is why I was able to transition quickly. But the backup plan was, if this virtual workout doesn't work, Then I had a demolition job lined up for me to go in and
Okay.
demolition places. I had a corner store down the street over here. They were offering me a part-time job to work at their corner store. I was ready to do those things that if in the event that my virtual workout didn't pan out. Thank goodness it panned out.
Yeah, you had a backup plan.
Yeah, had a backup plan.
Well, it was great having you on the show, and let everybody know what's your website again. So if they want to check you out.
So my website is remixmyfitness.com. That's REMIX, myfitness.com. And of course, all the social handles like Instagram, Remix My Fitness. And then, of course, the podcast, Remix My Fitness podcast, where you can get maybe a little bit more of me if you want. So,
there you go.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.
I mean, Jim and Kim, it was great having you on the show. And everybody listening to this and watching this, well, right now we're live, so you're watching this. Please subscribe to my Twitch channel. It's free, especially if you have an Amazon. Well, you can follow me for free. If you have an Amazon Prime account, you can subscribe for free. I'm also on YouTube at Marc The Shark MMA Show.com. I mean, Marc The Shark MMA Show on YouTube. My website is marcthesharkmma.com. Check it out if you want to be a guest on a show, if you want to be a sponsor, if you just want to shop for some hoodies or T-shirts or mugs or give a donation. And don't forget, I got a podcast episode that comes out every Sunday. And I'm live here on Twitch every Saturday. Today we're a little earlier, but they'll see it at the regular time, 3 o'clock. All's well that ends well. And again, thank you. Thank you, sir. It was great having you on the show.
I appreciate it, Mark. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
All right, guys, we'll be right back, but first a word from our sponsors.
During World War II, I was in prison in a Nazi camp. I died there, or so I thought. Instead, I became a creature of the dark world. Now I fight to protect my daughter. I am Marcus the Vampire. The book is now available at Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com and RitortoFamilyBooks.com.
All right, guys, this week's episode is done on a live show. But if you happen to be listening to this in the podcast format, keep listening because there's more content to follow. All right, guys, see you guys next week.